Hey guys, it's Movie Buff Beth, and I'm finally back again with another video. Real quick out of the gate, I'm just gonna apologize for how long it's been. I know it's been a minute since either of us has put out a video, but you know, life happens. I haven't really been in the mindset to make a YouTube video, but I'm happy to be sitting down and sharing with you guys today everything that I watched in the month of October, you know, now that it's almost December. But all that out of the way, I did watch a lot of movies in the month of October, and I've been watching a lot of movies in the month of November as well. So I'll go ahead and dive in. Won't spend an awful lot of time on each title just because I watch so much. But I want to thank you guys for your support as always, for your interest in our videos. And we should have a haul video coming out soon. We have a Criterion Collection update to do for you guys. We did pick up some titles this month of November. Just a general Blu-ray haul for you guys, and maybe some other collection videos coming in the near future as well. So thanks for tuning in again, and here's everything I watched in the month of October. And of course, in the month of October, I do my 31 Days of Halloween marathon, but I also watch some real hidden gems throughout the month, so I'll be going through all of that, giving you my quick thoughts and rating, and letting you know whether or not I would recommend it to you. So we kicked off the month of October with one of my favorite horror remakes, and that is 2004's Dawn of the Dead. This is of course directed by Zack Snyder. Always really enjoyed this movie. I remember I saw it in theaters, which I probably shouldn't have because I think I was only 9 when it came out. But my friend and his mom, we went and saw it, and it was a lot of fun, and I've had fond memories of it since that time. Again, I was way too young to see it, but it's a really fun horror remake. Obviously, it doesn't really, I can't even really compare it to the original. Obviously, it has the same story, same setting, everything, but it's very different. It's a lot more gruesome, very modern feel to it, but definitely what you should do with a remake. You know, not just a rehash of the original, but kind of a fresh take on it. You kind of hate Ty Burrell in this movie, but again, it's just a really fun remake. Easily 4 stars, one that I like to watch just about every year. Next up was a first time watch from the year of 2002, just recently put out on Blu-ray from Scream Factory, and that is Ghost Ship. I'd heard a lot about this movie over the years, but never really saw it. I missed out on a few of these early 2000s horror films. But this is one I was always interested in seeing, and I would definitely say that I enjoyed it. Everyone always talks about the opening scene of this movie, and for good reason. It's very memorable and very shocking, and it was really, really cool scene. And of course the rest of the movie doesn't quite live up to it, but overall I think it's really enjoyable. And there's one flashback scene that I really enjoyed. It had kind of like a hypnotic trance-like feel with some really cool music. Just overall, there's enough here to really enjoy, and I could definitely see myself watching this one again. I give this one a 3.5 out of 5. And of course, for October 3rd, I had to rewatch one of my all-time favorite comedies, and that is Mean Girls. This is the UK Burn Book edition. It's quite heavy, so I won't hold it this whole time. But if for some reason you've never seen Mean Girls, definitely check it out. It's one of the all-time greatest teen comedies. Has a great message about learning to get along with others and finding the best in other people, and just a really funny movie, really quotable. I could go back to that movie anytime, and of course on October 3rd I'm always going to watch it.
On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was.
It's October 3rd.
Continuing on our horror watches, I finally got around to these Tales from the Crypt movies, first one being Demon Knight. This one came out in 1995. Enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really fun anthology movie. Of the two that I watched, I enjoyed this one a bit more. Yeah, there was just a lot of fun stories in it. Liked it a lot. I give this one a 3.5 out of 5. And then from 1996, we also watched Bordello of Blood. Didn't enjoy this one quite as much as Demon Knight. Didn't have as many entertaining stories, but overall still a decent anthology. I give this one a 3 out of 5. And then this one we watched digitally. It's 1980's Alligator. This is one that Andrew's wanted to see for quite some time. I had never seen it before. It was a decent creature feature. I think that the pacing was a little off for me. Maybe I expected it to be a little faster paced, which I guess I shouldn't for a film from 1980. But you know, a lot of creature features nowadays are really fast paced. And I didn't quite get that here, but overall it was pretty good. The effects were pretty good for the time as well. I give this one a 3 out of 5. Next movie I watched was 2020's The Boys in the Band. This is a Netflix original. I didn't know too much about it going in. I just knew I liked a lot of the cast members quite a bit. And it's based on a play, based on a stage play, and it very much plays out that way, of course. You know, similar, I was thinking to Fences from a couple years ago with Denzel Washington, where, you know, it's just all one setting, all dialogue, a lot of dialogue. But overall, I thought it was a really well done film. I have never really gotten into stage plays too much, so maybe if you're into the stage play, you might enjoy it more or less, I'm not sure, but you know, it definitely has that feel as if you're watching a stage play. And great performances, really well done dialogue. Not one that I would probably see myself watching very often, but it was definitely worth at least one watch. I give this one a 4 out of 5. Then another first time watch from 1953, we have It Came from Outer Space. Andrew's always big into watching these creature features, especially ones that came out in the 50s. I think they're always a lot of fun, albeit a little campy and a little silly, but they are a lot of fun, and this one is no exception. I would give this one a 3.5 out of 5. Next movie was a rewatch. This is 2006's Borat. With the new one coming out, we had to watch this one again. This is just satire at its best. It's really fun to see all of the crazy things that he was willing to do and watch the really funny reactions, genuine reactions. Yeah, it's still a lot of fun today. As fun as when I watched it the first time. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 on this one. The next thing we watched was actually a TV special. It was the South Park Pandemic special. Real quick, I'll preface this by saying I've never been a fan of South Park, never really sat down and watched it. In fact, this was probably the first episode in its entirety that I ever watched. So probably missing a lot of context for the characters and whatnot. All of that said though, you know, you do hear a lot about South Park in media and just throughout the years. I've heard a lot about the characters, so I kind of felt in a way that I knew them. And I think we all just need a laugh sometimes when it comes to this pandemic. It's a very serious issue, very terrible what's been happening, but one of the ways that I deal with whatever's going on in my life is humor. So I was interested to check this out. And again, without any context of being a South Park fan at all, I thought it was pretty funny. I don't think I'm ever going to really sit down and watch all of South Park. Maybe I would watch an episode here and there. But yeah, it had some funny moments, kind of a silly storyline, but something fun to watch that makes fun of the pandemic in ways, and this one I give a 3.5 out of 5. The next movie I watched was another one that I watched digitally, and that is a 2020 release called Yes, God, Yes. This stars Natalia Dyer of Stranger Things fame, and I have to say I really enjoyed this film. Kind of came out of the blue and kind of blew me away. Basically, she goes to a summer camp sponsored by her super strict Catholic school, and she's kind of going through a sexual awakening, kind of trying to figure herself out and how she relates to all of her peers, you know, as everyone does as a teenager, but in that really strict religious upbringing where, you know, there's the purity culture and everything. She's being really challenged by this, and it's a very low-key story. It takes place over just a matter of weeks, I believe, but you really see a lot of growth in her character, and you really see how harmful this purity culture and this perfectionism can be to teenagers who are just basically, you know, living out what is natural for them. And she comes to realize that she's not the only person going through this, of course not, and that kind of helps her character to grow. Won't say too much more about it, but if you think that sounds interesting, a character piece about a teenager kind of grappling with her sexuality and how that works in her very strict religious upbringing, I would say definitely check it out. This movie I'd easily give a 4.5 out of 5. Great performance from Natalia Dyer, as well as the supporting cast, and just well worth your time. This next movie I also watched digitally. This is one I wanted to see for a while. I think I've put it off just because I knew that it would absolutely break my heart. It's called Love Antosha. It is about the life of Anton Yelchin, the life and career of Anton Yelchin, who few years ago was killed in a freak accident in which his Jeep pinned him against a fence, and he was only, I want to say, like in his late 20s. It was just an extremely tragic loss. It's probably one of the celebrity deaths that's hit me the hardest, just because it was so shocking, and with it being a freak accident, there's just no preparation for that. And he's one of my favorite actors, still is. I just saw such an incredible career coming for him. And his parents helped some filmmakers make a documentary about his life. And yeah, it definitely broke my heart, but it was a fantastic documentary. Just a really moving portrait of the life that he led. And it really shows how much people just adored him. It wasn't even, romanticizing him or making him seem like a perfect person, but it really just showed, how genuine he was in everything that he did and how hard of a worker he was. And it's really hard not to like him. And I think this documentary did a fantastic job of showing not just the good, but also some of the darker parts of his life. But it had a lot of celebrities come on. It had like Kristen Stewart, Chris Pine, Jennifer Lawrence, and it was actually narrated by Nicolas Cage, which was really cool. And it was just really nice to see all of the insights into his life and kind of get to know him on a deeper level. And if you're a fan of Anton Yelchin, absolutely check this out. But I would also say check it out even if you're not a fan, just so you can get to know him and then get to know what kind of projects you need to go check out of his. Because he has a really prolific filmography for how young he was. He acted from a very early age, and yeah, it's just a really great documentary. I really loved it. I loved it so much that I went ahead and designed a Blu-ray case for it. I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek to that. We'll be doing a video fairly soon talking about some of our Blu-ray cover designs that we've done. A lot of them are for our Stinky Tuna releases because we wanted to create slightly better, more aesthetically pleasing covers for some of the Stinky Tuna releases, but this is one that I just created because I love the movie so much, and it's only available on DVD. I'll probably pick up the DVD and throw it in here, but just wanted to create this Blu-ray case for this movie that I just absolutely loved. Absolutely recommend checking out Love, Antosha. This movie I give 5 stars. I can tell I've already been talking far too much, so I'll try to keep the pace here. Next movie I watched is a 2020 true crime documentary that came to Netflix called American Murder: The Family Next Door. I really enjoyed true crime. I don't think I sit down and watch enough about it, or listen to enough podcasts, or watch enough TV shows, whatever. So I'm always looking to watch more of them because true crime is very fascinating to me. This is a really tragic story. I kind of remember it when it was in the news just a few years ago, but I thought this was a well done documentary in that they took things that were very personal, like Facebook posts, text messages, whatnot, from the victim and, shed light on just the horrible situation. I don't want to give away too much for those of you that don't know the story, but I think it's well worth your time. A very well done documentary. Give this one a 4 out of 5. Next watch for 31 Days of Halloween was a rewatch of 2010's Tucker, Dale vs. Evil. This movie's so much fun. This is probably one of my all-time favorite horror comedies. Just the situations that the characters get themselves into. So funny. Great performances from our 2 leads, Tucker and Dale. If you guys have never seen this and you like horror comedies, definitely check it out. Easy 4 out of 5. And another 2020 documentary that I checked out on Netflix was The Social Dilemma. A lot of people were talking about this movie. It is kind of talking about the dangers of social media and how social media has pretty much turned everyone into a marketing tool and a research subject. This is a very interesting topic to me, and I will say the documentary is very interesting. It keeps you interested from beginning to end. It does have kind of a cheesy dramatization thrown in there, which I don't think was entirely necessary, but it does have some young actors that I like to watch, so I can't complain too much. But I will say this documentary does seem pretty biased. I think that there's a lot of really solid points in there, but there's not so much to offer from the other side, and I would have liked to see that a little bit more. But of course, this is a documentary talking about the dangers of social media, so they're not necessarily going to come on and talk about how great it is, but I don't think social media is all bad, and this documentary definitely made it seem that way. But again, there is a lot of interesting points in there, even if it is a bit biased. I mean, what documentary isn't? I think it's still worth checking out, and then maybe you can sit down and seek out some research on the other side after you watch it. So overall, I'd probably give this one a 4 out of 5. Next watch for 31 Days of Halloween is the classic from 1973, The Exorcist. I don't know what I could say about this movie that hasn't already been said. This is a fantastic film. Great performance from Linda Blair, probably one of the best child performances in horror I've ever seen. If you've never seen it, stop watching this video right now and go give it a watch. 4.5 out of 5 for me, one of my all-time favorite horror films. And then these next two were actually first-time watches. They are the sequels to The Exorcist, first one being 1977's Exorcist 2. This one also stars Linda Blair. Never been very well received, and I can kind of see why. The whole plot was pretty messy. It was almost a little too melodramatic for me. It didn't even have a ton of horror elements. I'll probably go back and watch it again at some point, but you know, just having watched The Exorcist to watching this one, I was pretty disappointed. I'd probably give this one maybe a 2 to 2.5 out of 5. And then 13 years later in 1990, we got The Exorcist 3. Now this movie, on the other hand, is a fantastic sequel to The Exorcist. This movie's great. Fantastic performances, great tension, so creepy, so eerie, has one of the creepiest jump scares I think I've ever seen in any movie ever. And admittedly, I thought that jump scares were kind of a newer thing, you know, newer than 1990. But this has probably one of the scariest jump scares I've ever seen. And if you guys have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, great movie. Give this one an easy 4 out of 5. Next movie I watched is 2020's Hubie Halloween on Netflix. I have not been a big fan of the Adam Sandler direct-to-Netflix movies. In fact, I don't think I've even watched many of them. Just really, truly terrible comedies. But I saw, you know, I do like Adam Sandler. I do have a soft spot for him, I will admit. I'm not going to be the harshest critic of him. And, you know, when I saw he was doing a Halloween movie for Netflix, I was like, okay, I gotta give this a watch. And guys, I really tried to like this one. You know, it had some funny moments, some cute characters, but really just not a funny movie at all. I really tried to like it, I really did, but I just did not enjoy it. Probably give this one maybe 2 stars out of 5, just because there are some actors in it that I like, but yeah, really not worth your time in my opinion. Probably my least favorite thing I watched this whole month. Next watch was another rewatch from 2015, another one of my all-time favorite horror comedies, and that is The Final Girls. This is a great spin on the slasher genre, where our characters get thrown into an 80s slasher movie, and it's so much fun, great performances, great soundtrack, just well worth your time. If you guys are looking for a horror comedy, check out Final Girls. Is great. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna blast through these next few pretty quick. Wanted to rewatch a bunch of my favorite Friday the 13th movies since the new Scream Factory box set dropped, so I'll go ahead and go through these real quick. I watched the first 6 movies. I'll just give my ratings, and I will tell you which one is my favorite. First one we watched, of course, is 1980's Friday the 13th. 4 out of 5 stars, classic movie. Friday the 13th Part 2, 3.5 out of 5 stars. I like this one because Sackhead Jason is totally badass. Another really fun entry. Friday the 13th Part 3, maybe a little weaker story-wise, but you do get hockey mask Jason for the first time, which is awesome. So 3.5 out of 5 on that one. This one is my favorite of the series, and that is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. A lot of great kills, really fun storyline with Corey Feldman's character, ridiculous dance from Crispin Glover, just a heck of a lot of fun. Great slasher movie with some of the best effects in the series. This one's 4 out of 5 for me. And then we have Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. I know this one's really hit or miss for people. It definitely takes a different approach to the story, and for that I kind of appreciated it, because, you know, we've been doing this for 4 other movies before now, but yeah, it's not the best, but not the worst either. I'd probably give this a 3.5 out of 5. And this one is probably my other favorite, and that's Part 6, Jason Lives. This one, again, a heck of a lot of fun, great kills, really fun song, Just overall fun slasher movie, 4 out of 5. Next movie we watched for 31 Days of Halloween, another rewatch. This movie came out last year, and that is Countdown. We saw this one in theater shortly after we moved here. It was a lot of fun. Really cheesy premise, but overall a really fun movie. I'd probably give this 3.5 out of 5. Then we had a little family Disney Halloween double feature. First one with 2003's The Haunted Mansion. I thought I had seen this when I was a kid. I really didn't remember very much of it. I think it's definitely a great one to watch with your kids. Overall, not a lot to love for adults, but I give this one 3 out of 5. And then this one, on the other hand, is a great one for everyone in the family, and that is Tim Burton's Frankenweenie. This one came out in 2012. I think this is a really fun stop-motion animation movie. I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, nor am I a big fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Sorry, guys. But I do like Frankenweenie. I think it's really cute, a lot of fun. This one I give 4 out of 5. This next one we actually watched on YouTube. We'll be getting the Blu-ray soon, as we are an Indiegogo backer of the project, and that is Never Hike in the Snow. This is a prequel to Never Hike Alone, the fan film of Friday the 13th. Big fan of Never Hike Alone. I thought this was a really fun follow-up. I was happy to have supported it. I give this one 3.5 out of 5. Another first-time watch is 2006's remake of The Hills Have Eyes. I've always heard this is a great remake from a great director, and it definitely is. It doesn't hold back any punches. It is very gruesome, definitely very gritty, but definitely enjoyed it. 4 out of 5. Yet another rewatch for the month, one of my all-time horror favorites, and that is 1985's Reanimator. This is a great release from Arrow Video. If you guys have never seen this one, definitely check it out. Really crazy characters, really fun scenes, just fun horror movie. This one I give 4 out of 5. Realizing we watched a few horror comedies this month. Next one, this is a rewatch for me, first time watch for Andrew. This is from 2013. This is Hell Baby. This is from the people who came up with Reno 911, so that'll give you a pretty good idea of the style of humor there is in this. But this has a great cast, really out there story, but lots of fun at the same time. Probably give this one a 3.5 out of 5. Next movie we watched, long overdue watch for me, and that's 1966's Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Great Dracula movie, probably one of my favorite entries in the Dracula universe. Really well done film from Hammer. This one I give 4 out of 5. And then we checked out an indie horror film from 2016. This was released by IFC Midnight and Scream Factory, and that is The Midnight Man. I thought this one was pretty fun. It has appearances from Lynn Shay and Robert Englund, two horror all-time greats. It's definitely not a super original story. You know, kids play a game, get themselves into some trouble. But overall, it was fun. I'd probably give it 3 out of 5. And then we actually have another indie horror movie. This one's from 2019, and it is called Candy Corn. This one I had a lot of fun with. I really like this kind of low-budget indie horror movie that we're getting nowadays. And this has appearances from PJ Souls and Tony Todd, which is awesome. Love PJ Souls, she's the best. But yeah, this one's a lot of fun, 3.5 out of 5. Then we watched the classic 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street. Not too much to say about that one, other than I absolutely love it. One of my all-time favorite horror movies, easy 4 out of 5. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing. Alright, I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, this next movie is my favorite movie that I watched in the month of October, but it is also my favorite movie of 2020 so far. I really love this movie. I knew I was gonna like it because I do like the two leads quite a bit, but I don't think I expected how much I was gonna love it. So much that I actually watched it twice in the same day. I rented it digitally. Since then, it has been released on DVD, and that is Spontaneous, starring Catherine Langford and Charlie Plummer. Again, this is a 2020 film, kind of a coming-of-age sci-fi horror movie. I don't know, not really a horror movie, kind of more of a coming-of-age drama with some horrific elements. Basically, they are in high school, seniors in high school, and inexplicably, their classmates start blowing up. And they don't know why. And that's basically the premise of it. It sounds like it could be really campy, but it actually is really heartfelt, really sincere. Obviously has some funny moments, some kind of dark humor moments, but I really love this movie. I think it has a great message about how one should lead their lives and how one should face difficulties and trauma in their life, and a really cute love story as well between these two leads. Again, there's not much I could say about this movie other than I absolutely loved it, and it's one that's going to stick with me for a while. And it's been a long time since I put on a movie twice. In fact, I can only think of 2 other films that I've done this with, mostly because I watch it by myself and then Andrew gets home from work and I have to show it to him. But this one I was just 100% willing. I was like, I watched this movie, you need to watch it. The other 2 movies, if you're curious, are Rudderless and The Normal Heart. But yeah, really love this movie. Even if it doesn't sound super interesting to you, I'm going to say give it a shot because it will probably surprise you. The premise I was not expecting a lot, but I really loved it. And it's easily my favorite movie of 2020. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. And real quick, I do not like this cover. This is also the poster art. I don't think it does justice for what the movie is at all. I think it's a terrible poster. So I went ahead and designed my own cover. I don't think that it does justice. Either it's very difficult to do justice to a movie that's so multi-tonal and has a lot of layers to it. But I did create a cover that I enjoy a little bit more. So there it is. So yeah, Spontaneous. Really love this movie. Wish it came out on Blu-ray. Holding out hopes for that. Created a cover for it, so maybe it'll happen. We will see. Next movie I watched was actually on Disney Plus. This is one of my favorites growing up. It is Phantom of the Megaplex from 2000. It's very cheesy, very campy, as could be expected, but these early 2000 DComs, late 90s DComs, are just so great, so much fun. This one is no exception, 3 out of 5 stars for me. And then we also checked out a TV special from the 80s on Disney Plus. It's called Mr. Boogedy, came out in 1986. Again, this one was made for TV. I didn't care for it too much. It was very contrived, very campy performances. It was okay. I could definitely see, you know, it being a product of the time and being made for television. Probably give it 2.5 stars. Next movie I watched was 2017's The Beguiled. This is directed by Sofia Coppola. I have not seen the original Clint Eastwood film. Let's just say that real quick. However, I really enjoyed this movie. This is actually the only Sofia Coppola film I hadn't seen yet, and with her new film coming out, On the Rocks, I wanted to check it out and I was not disappointed. This is a really well done film. Great performances, especially from Colin Farrell, Kirsten Dunst, and Nicole Kidman. Definitely enjoyed this one. I would give this one 4 out of 5. As I've mentioned here before, I'm trying to work my way through Paul Schrader's filmography. So the next movie I watched was 2002's Autofocus. This stars Greg Kinnear and Willem Dafoe. This is a great film, great character study, fantastic performances from both leads. Especially Greg Kinnear. I'm not sure if I've ever seen him do such a great job in a movie, but definitely enjoyed this one. Give this one 4 out of 5. Next movie I watched was actually on Shudder. This is a 2020 release, and that is The Mortuary Collection. This was a really fun anthology film, had some really out there and wacky stories. I liked that it was kind of a period piece where most of the stories took place in the past, while the wraparound story was present day. The wraparound story was also fairly interesting, which is, you know, sometimes one of the downfalls of anthology films is the wraparound story is kind of dumb. But this was not the case in this one. I thought it was a pretty good wraparound story, and all of the stories within were very entertaining. This one I give an easy 4 out of 5. Next one we watched was another 2020 release, and that is Save Yourselves. Really enjoyed this one. Another one that kind of makes you think about life, you know, similar to how Spontaneous does, you know, through kind of sci-fi elements, kind of an apocalyptic movie, but it has a fun, quirky, indie feel to it and some great performances. Really enjoyed this one, 4 out of 5. Another rewatch of another one of my favorite horror remakes, and that's 1988's The Blob. I really like the original with Steve McQueen, but this one is just so much better. It takes everything that was great with the Steve McQueen film and made it even better. This movie's so much fun. One of the best B-movie creature features of the 80s. Definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. 4 out of 5 for me. Then we watched yet another 2020 release. This was on HBO Max, and that is The Witches. I had kind of level expectations for this because I really enjoyed the original. But I do like Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer quite a bit, so I went in, hoping that it would be great. However, it just wasn't. It really missed a lot of the magical points of the original and just didn't have much of a purpose or meaning to me. Some of the plot changes that they did didn't really work for me. It looked like it was very expensive, and the production design was really cool. Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer were great, but unfortunately they couldn't really elevate a somewhat subpar plot and script. This one I'd probably give 2 to 2.5 out of 5. The next one was another rewatch from 2006, and that is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I really enjoyed this movie. It kind of came out of the blue. I had never seen it, hadn't really heard much about it either when Scream Factory released it, so I watched it shortly after they originally released it and really loved it. Still love it now. Love Robert Englund's part in this. The whole mockumentary element to it is great. Kind of dissect slasher movies and slasher movie tropes. It's a lot of fun. This one I give 4 out of 5. The next movie I watched was on Amazon Prime, and that is the sequel to Borat subsequent movie film. This one I enjoyed a lot more than I expected to. I knew that it was going to be, similar in tone to the original Borat, so I kind of knew what I was going in for, but I feel like he kind of just upped the ante from the original. He had to do a lot more elaborate costumes because, everybody knows who Borat is now. But yeah, he definitely didn't hold back in this movie at all, and I had a lot of fun with it. I give it 4 out of 5. A first time watch, another indie horror film, and that is 2019's Trek. I thought this movie was fun. It had some okay performances and okay script, but again, it was fun. At times it felt a little bit like a soap opera, kind of melodramatic, but it had some really fun kills. I know a lot of people really hated this one, but I thought it was enjoyable, really bloody, fun time. Give it 3 out of 5. This is a long overdue watch for me, and that is 2007's Michael Clayton, starring George Clooney. I've heard a lot of good things about this movie and finally sat down and gave it a watch, and I can definitely see why. This is a really well done thriller, fantastic performances, just a really gripping, interesting storyline that keeps you interested from beginning to end. I'd give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I recently listened to the Casey Affleck episode of Armchair Expert, the podcast with Dax Shepard, and he talked quite a bit about his project Light of My Life, so I wanted to check it out. This is a 2019 film. This is kind of a post-apocalyptic movie that takes place about a decade after a plague has happened, and he and his daughter are just trying to survive. And his daughter he actually disguises as a boy to protect her in this apocalyptic world, and it's kind of their journey. Kind of reminded me of like The Road. But yeah, it was a very low-key, well-done drama film. Great performance from Casey Affleck and the girl who I had never seen in anything before. But yeah, just a very interesting film. I give this one 4 out of 5. Next movie I watched was on streaming on Apple TV Plus, and that is 2020's On the Rocks, directed by Sofia Coppola, starring Rashida Jones and Bill Murray. I was definitely looking forward to this one because, again, I love Sofia Coppola, I really like Bill Murray, and I really like Rashida Jones, so had some high expectations for it, and it definitely didn't let me down. I feel like this movie's smaller scale than some of her other films, definitely a lot more low-key, but that's not a bad thing. It's kind of the perfect, afternoon watch, especially being stuck at home, not being able to go out and do a lot because of COVID, but it just felt like the perfect of the time movie where Rashida Jones suspects that her husband, who is played by Marlon Wayans, really enjoy seeing him in dramatic roles, kind of throwback to Requiem for a Dream, where she suspects that her husband may be cheating on her, so she, gets the help from her father, who's kind of a playboy type, and they are going to figure out if her husband is actually cheating. And yeah, just a really fun movie, cool dynamic between Rashida Jones and Bill Murray, and great writing, great directing. As always, this one I give a 4 out of 5. Next movie I watched is 2019's Haunt. I hope this shows up on camera okay. This is the Ronin Flicks Collector's Edition. So happy they put this out on Blu-ray. But yeah, I watched this for the first time last year and was happy to watch it again this year. Definitely a staple that I want to throw into my October watches every year. It's a lot of fun. A group of teens go into a haunted house and things go awry, basically. But again, lots of fun, 3.5 out of 5. And then this is another Halloween themed one that I will see myself watching every year, and that's 2018's Hellfest. I know a lot of people didn't love this one, but I think it's a really fun Halloween themed slasher, and it was fun seeing them go into really cool theme parks that I could see myself wanting to go to. This one I give 4 out of 5. Went with a little bit of a lighter tone with our next watch for 31 Days of Horror, and that's 1986's Little Shop of Horrors. I'm not a huge musical fan, however this is one of my favorites. So much fun. 4 out of 5 stars, definitely a classic. And then another one that I watched digitally, a new release from 2020, and that is The Craft Legacy. This one, definitely a very divisive film. I know a lot of people would have rather this movie didn't even get made or released, but I was willing to give it a shot. I do like the director. I've liked some of her other films, kind of a cool indie director. So I went into this one with a pretty open mind, and I have to say, I think I enjoyed it more than most. If you completely separate it from the original, which of course it doesn't even remotely live up to, I think that you can find some enjoyment in it. Less of a horror movie, more of like a coming-of-age teen movie with some horror elements in there. Again, it's not anywhere near as good as the original, but if you're willing to separate the two, I think you can find some enjoyment in this one, especially if you like kind of teen coming-of-age movies, which I love. So this one I give 3 out of 5. We are almost to my Halloween watches. Sorry guys, this is taking forever. On October 30th, this is the first time watch, I watched 1987's The Witches of Eastwick. I have seen Practical Magic, which is enjoyable as well, but Witches of Eastwick I'd never seen before. Definitely wanted to check it out for that cast alone. The cast alone is just a blast to watch. Jack Nicholson, Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Susan Sarandon. Just so much fun. Probably one of the best casts I've seen in a movie ever. And I think they elevate what would have been a somewhat not as good movie, just simply by how charismatic and fun to watch they are. And this one I give 3.5 out of 5. Alright, so finally getting to our Halloween Day watches, which I will admit did spill over a little bit into November this year, so you'll hear a couple that I watched at the beginning of November when I do my next month's video. However, we did get 3 movies in on Halloween Day. First one, now hear me out if you guys have never seen this one, it's a lot of fun, and that is 2012's Fun Size. This is one I could easily see myself watching every year. Yes, it is a Nickelodeon movie starring Victoria Justice, but hear me out, it's so fun. You know, it really throws you back to the experience of, you know, either being a kid trick-or-treating on Halloween or, you know, being a teenager going to parties on Halloween, whatever it may be. Just a really fun movie, had some real laugh-out-loud moments. I remember being really surprised by this movie when I watched it the first time. So if you're looking for something really lighthearted and fun to watch on Halloween, I definitely recommend Fun Size. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. And then of course these next 2 I watch every year on Halloween. It's a tradition. They are my 2 favorite Halloween movies, both 5 out of 5 films for me. First one being 2007's Trick or Treat, easily the best anthology film of all time. The way that all of the stories connect to each other is incredible. Sam is a very menacing and creepy, but also kind of cute character. I love Trick or Treat, one of my all-time favorite horror films in general, and one that is so much fun to watch on Halloween every year. And then there's very little that can be said for this movie that hasn't already been said, but this is easily my favorite horror film of all time, one of my favorite films in general, and that is 1978's Halloween, directed by John Carpenter. Fantastic tension, fantastic performances, great score. Love this movie. Everything about it is just quintessential horror, the best slasher ever made, and my favorite movie to watch on Halloween every year. And that is everything that I watched in the month of October. So again, lots of horror, lots of stuff for 31 days of Halloween, but also some hidden gems in there that I also was able to watch, which is awesome. Sorry again that this video is so late, but before I leave you guys, I have to let you know what my pick of the month is. No surprise, spontaneous. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. It's available on DVD. You can check it out on Amazon Video, Vudu, wherever you check out digital content. I definitely recommend it. And another thing that I watched in the month of October that I obviously absolutely loved, took me far too long to sit down and watch it, and that is Schitt's Creek. Love this show so much, guys. I haven't been so invested in a comedy series in quite some time. I love this show. The Rose family, so lovable. Fantastic performances from all of the leads, but of course the shining star of the show is Catherine O'Hara as Moira Rose. Really just one of the best comedic performances I've ever seen. She so deserved her Emmy. Every award that the Schitt's Creek has ever won is well deserving. And you know, all 6 seasons are available on Netflix now, so go give it a watch. You can also pick it up on DVD, the complete series, and you know, you can watch it in its entirety, you know, front to back. I definitely recommend it. Schitt's Creek is just peak humor, peak comedy. Love that show so much. And if you want to see a comedic series that has the best character development I've ever seen, definitely check out Schitt's Creek. It's well worth your time. But I'm sure you guys have heard that from many others before me. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being patient. I know it's been taking us ages to get videos out, but we will try to keep putting content out there for you guys. Thanks for your support as always, and take care.